Okay, in this activity, we're going to be creating an Excel spreadsheet with the information given, and then taking that information and creating a column chart. So we'll just walk you through the process based on the directions provided on the website. Step number one is to create a spreadsheet in the layout shown using the numbers and text from the table. So here is your information that we're using. All you need to do is go into an Excel spreadsheet and type that information in just as it appears on the direction. Notice I have started on row number 3 because we're going to come back and we're going to use some word art to create a title for it. So I'm just leaving a little space. But type in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, the types of items, dresses, suits, lingerie, and accessories, and then type in these numbers. And this is all hard numbers. So take a minute, pause the video, and all you're doing is typing in this information in an Excel spreadsheet. When you finish typing in, start the video back up, and we'll show you the next step. Okay, now that you have the information typed in, the next step, according to the directions, is on the spreadsheet, calculate the total sales for week 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we want the total sales. So we come back to our spreadsheet, and here's week 1 sales. So down at the bottom, underneath week 1, we want the totals. So we're going to type in the totals here, and then come over to where we want the answer. And we're going to create an auto sum function by coming up. Make sure you're on the Home tab. Make sure you're in the Home tab. Come over to the right-hand side where it says Auto Sum. You can click the drop down and make sure you've chosen the Sum option. And chances are Excel guessed what you wanted to add together. If it didn't, just take your mouse, click and drag over the week 1 sales. You should see = sum and then the range B4 through B7. You just hit enter. Simple as that. Do the same thing for week 2. Click where you want the answer. Come up to the auto sum button. Click it. Highlight the numbers if they don't pop up and just hit enter. Once you've done that a couple times, you can just copy this formula across using relative cell reference by selecting week 2, coming to the lower right hand corner of the active cell there. Click and hold, and when your mouse changes shapes, just drag it over, and then we have the totals for week 3 and week 4 put together. The next step is, it says on the spreadsheet, calculate the totals for the individual items, dresses, suits, lingerie, and accessories. So coming back to our spreadsheet, that is the totals over here. So after week 4, we're going to type in totals. And scroll back there. And to get the totals for the dresses, we again will use the auto sum function. Click on that. If it doesn't guess the right cells, just take your mouse, click and drag over again, and hit enter. And there we have our total for our dresses. Do the same thing with suits. Same thing with lingerie. Well, now notice when I did lingerie here, when I clicked on the auto sum function, it guessed that I wanted to add the numbers above it, and that's wrong. So I take my mouse and I click and I just drag over to get the lingerie throughout the month, and it should be, in my case, the range V6 through E6. If you filled in the same cells as I did, yours will be the same also. Same thing with accessories. Again, I'm going to take my mouse here. Okay, so now we've done the totals for each item and the total sales for each week. Let's go back to our directions. And again, if I'm going too fast, just pause the video, rewind the video, and catch up when you're able. According to the directions, the next step here is to calculate the total sales for Elsa Clothing Store. So we come back to the spreadsheet, and the total sales is here. Now, we have a choice. Theoretically, it doesn't matter. We can add these numbers up to get the total, or we can add these numbers up and get the total. I'm going to choose to add these numbers up because in general, I like to add up and down, but it really doesn't matter. It's your preference. So I click on the auto sum. It guessed what I want to add together correctly, so I hit enter. And here are the total sales for the month, which adds all these up. If I would have done the same thing here, it would have come up with the same number. Okay? Now, let's see the next step in the process. Let's go back to our instructions. And it says, number 5 here, it says, format the spreadsheet as shown below, which means it's shown down here. We have to use bold, italics, the comma formatting, the currency formatting, borders, and right align where indicated, meaning where I have it, where it is in the example. The column width should be wide enough to see all the numbers, so some of these numbers might be a little tight. And we want to use word art, any word art we want, to create the title of it that says ELSA Close Monthly Report. Okay, so let's take a look. If you notice the dresses, the items, suits, lingerie, and accessories, that is all italicized. Let's come back to the spreadsheet. Let's highlight those cells right there, and let's make them italicized. And I believe that's bold also. If you look at the spreadsheet, italicized and it's bold. The total down here is bold. And also notice that all of these items here are right aligned, meaning they line up on the right side of the column and the left side is jagged. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. Let's make totals bold and let's right align. And right align here is kind of again on the home tab. In the middle there's that alignment group. Find the one that is lined up on the right hand side. And we're going to select those cells and right align them. Let's go back to our example. Looks like the headings at the top are all bolded. So let's come back to our spreadsheet and we will bold the items at the top. Then if you notice the numbers here, our hard numbers, our sales numbers for the week, there's no dollar sign there. But it does have a comma, and it has 2 decimal points. So we want to make sure we have a comma and 2 decimal points with the numbers in the middle. So let's come back to our spreadsheet. Highlight those numbers in the middle, and the comma formatting function is right here again on the Home tab, kind of right in the middle where it says all the different number formattings. We want to use comma. If you click the drop-down list, here are other ways you can format the cells. The comma formatting is right here in the middle, so click on that. And yours may or may not, depending on how you typed it in, have 2 decimal points. Yours might have 1 or 3 or different numbers. So again, in that same grouping up here, that number grouping, there are two small buttons. One increases the decimal and one decreases the decimal. So click on the increase or decrease until you have all of them showing just 2 decimal points. Because when we're dealing with money, we normally go out 2 decimal points as a fraction of a dollar. Let's go back to our instructions. And we look at the bottom here, where the totals are on the bottom and on the side. And that not only has a comma, but it also has a dollar sign. So we want to format those using the currency style. So highlight the totals at the bottom. And again, come up to our numbers formatting group. Take the dollar sign. And here are different ways you can format it in dollar. We, of course, want English. And we want the dollar sign there. Do the same thing with the totals for each item. And format in currency. Here, if you notice up here it says accounting, and you know if you click the drop down there, you see accounting and currency, and they're both very similar. There's slight differences. If you notice here, currency, the dollar sign is right next to the number. Where down here, it says accounting, the $ is on the far left-hand side of the cell. I will accept either one for this assignment, but that's the difference between the two. Now, if you are in a situation where where you're seeing pound signs in one of the columns, that just means don't panic. That just means the column is not wide enough to show the number. So take your mouse, and in between the columns that have the pound sign, to the right of that cell at the top here, put your mouse right on the edge, right between the columns, and it should change shapes into a double arrow. You can click and hold and drag, and it makes it wider enough to see it, or you can use what's called the best fit option by taking your mouse, putting it right in the middle there. When it changes shapes, double click, and when you double click, the column width is automatically readjusted so it's just wide enough to see everything in the column. I'll demonstrate that again real quick. Here's a bunch of pound signs. I'm going between C and D here, hold my mouse in between and double clicking. Oh, well, it made wider because if I scroll down, you can see how I have something else in this column way down here. So that's why that best fit didn't work in that particular case the way we wanted it to. Okay? You click and drag and resize the column. All right, next on our instructions, it says use WordArt to create the title Elsa's closed monthly report. So we'll come back to our assignment. We're going to use WordArt. We're going to come up here and first type it in. Okay, and once you type it in, then we are going to insert some WordArt. So if you go to the Insert menu, and notice I have this cell selected, because when we come up to WordArt, and you can kind of pick any one you like, kind of just get it going. Well, I guess it didn't do it. If I would have clicked it and selected it, it should have put it in there automatically. It does that in Word. Obviously, it works a little bit different in Excel. So I'm just going to cut and paste. I'm going to cut it here, click where it says your text here, and I'm going to paste the title in, resize it by clicking on the handles on the side, and this is where you'll have to play with it a little bit. Come up here and maybe you have to select it and resize the font size, kind of where you want it. And scroll back over, and you can resize your WordArt here, so you get it to kind of where you want it. Okay. Move it to the top, that space that we kind of provided, and you want to kind of center it. Oops. Make sure you grab, when you move it, you got to make sure you're grabbing not in the white space, but actually on the edge. And you notice your mouse will again change shapes to that 4 arrows, and then you can click and drag it up. And why did I miss it again? There we go. It's a little tricky. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see a little bit more here. Once you have it in place and about the right size, you can select the text again. And notice that when you have that selected, this Drawing Tools Format tab comes up, and you can, use these and change it around a little bit and resize it a little bit how you want it. You can also use some of these other backgrounds and options you have available to you to make it kind of make it look the way you want it to look. Take a minute, go ahead and do that. We've gone over this technique, so you should know how to do that. Okay, once you've created that, let's go back to our instructions. And now yours should look similar to the example here. Let's come down to step 6, and it says create a column chart for the spreadsheet. It should include data labels, legends, and borders. change the patterns and colors to enhance the readability, assuming we're going to print it out in black and white. So in the example here, you can see how it's hard to tell the difference between dresses, suits, lingerie, and accessories because they all kind of look the same, different shades. What we want to do, one of the things we want you to do is come and change what this different things look like so it's easier to tell them apart when you print it out in black and white. Then we're also going to name the chart monthly sales or MO sales. Okay, so let's go back to our spreadsheet. And again, we just want the totals for week 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, here are the totals for week 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's what we want. But we want it based on each category, the number of dresses, lingeries, and accessories. So this is the information we're dealing with. Week 1, 2, 3, and 4 for dresses, suits, lingeries, and accessories. Go ahead and select that information. And notice I've included the labels when I've selected this. And there's one cell that doesn't have any information in it, but Excel is smart enough to know that you don't need that information. Let's come to the Insert menu. And under Insert, there's this chart area right here. We don't want bar, we want column because we want it to go up and down. Bars go right to left. We want a column. Go ahead and choose your typical 2D cluster, which is the very first one there. And when you just click on it, notice how it automatically, let me zoom out a little bit so it's easier to see, puts in the chart inside of your spreadsheet. You can kind of resize this a little bit so it fits a little better, and you can see it. Here's the legend on the side here. You can choose how you want this to look by customizing the chart once you've created it. For instance, if you look at the example here, I have a title at the top and I have the legend on the bottom. So on our spreadsheet, in order to change kind of the formatting of it, we're going to come to this chart layout. Again, I'm under with your chart selected. You should see the chart tools pop up. I'm under design. And I'm going to this chart layout. And here are all the different layouts that you can choose for your chart. I'm going to choose this third one in the first row that says layout number 3. And that gives me a chart title, and it moves the legend to below, just like in our example. We're going to type in click where it says chart title, and type in the title of the chart, which is Elsa's Closed Monthly Report. Okay, and when you type that in, you should have that. Notice up here, this column here kind of resized. I'm going to click and drag this a little wider so I can see the numbers. Now we're asked to edit the individual columns here so it's easier to read in black and white. And there are a couple different ways we can do this. One is just to take your mouse and right-click on, say, the dresses, which is the first one, choose Format Data Point, and come here to Fill. And you can do all different things in here. One is like for a picture, you can add a clip art to it, and you can choose. I just have an Eiffel Tower, and you can do that on each one. Right-click, Format Data Point, Fill, Picture, clip art, and you can do that on each one. That's one way we can do it. For the second example, for suits, we can just change the whole series by right-clicking and choose Format Data Series, and go to Fill, and we can do like a solid, and just make this like black. It's pure black, so there's no shading at all on it. Say OK, and then notice how now that is all black all the way across. And then we can make like the next one very light. So again, Format Data Series, go to Fill. You can do like a solid fill and pick a light color, maybe like a green. So this will come off maybe even a little lighter. This will come off very light. And then you can choose a different a method for the other one. Maybe that's a granite fill, or here, and use like a striped one, black and white stripes. Maybe that would come off across in a. So there's totally different. You can see down here how they're totally different, and just gives you an idea of what it is. Easier to see or read it when it comes off in a black and white printer. Then if we look at our instructions again, it says name the sheet monthly sales. So we come down to the bottom where it says sheet 1, double click there and name it monthly sales, or MO sales. Here we go. So now the sheet has been renamed. Okay, next on the instructions, it says, come down here, we're on number 7 now. It says put a header on the spreadsheet with your name, bell number, and date. So come back to the spreadsheet, and the header and footer is under the insert menu. Insert, header and footer, and we use a custom header. In the left area, on the left side, you're going to put your name. Hit tab to go in the middle, and you can put your bell number. So if you're in bell 2, put bell number 2. On the right hand side, you want to put the date, and you can come up here to your pre-selected buttons, find the insert date button. It inserts, will insert the date automatically. Go ahead and say OK. You'll notice that there's no change on your spreadsheet, but if you go to preview it, so go to the Office button, print, and then print preview, you will see it, you should see it here at the top. Now you'll see it at the top here. If for some reason you don't, come back to the Excel spreadsheet, and you want to look under, go to the View menu here, go to the View and choose Page Layout. You should see it at the top, and you can put it in this way also. Hand type it in that way. Okay? And put it in here right at the top. So you go back to the View menu, you choose Page Layout, and you can see here at the top where you put the information in. Okay? And then you can change back to normal view here. But of course, if you're still in the, if you still selected the header and footer area, it won't let you change. You have to click down in your document here. Then you'll be able to switch back to normal view. Okay? And you can also see here, if you look, there are dotted lines showing you where the edge of the page is. So I'm going to move my chart so it fits on the page. And then according to the instructions here, so we've created that. Now it says, the last instruction here, 8, it says print a copy of the spreadsheet with formulas, and the column chart. Staple them together and then turn them in. So you can print out, again using print preview here. You go to print preview, you can kind of see what it'll look like if you print it out. And we've got a copy of the spreadsheet, and notice you can fix this up a little bit here. So that looks a little bit better. I'm just going to make this a little wider, and then be able to move this around, center that a little bit better. And I'm going to move this down just to create a little more space. Okay? But it also asks on the instructions to print a copy of the spreadsheet showing the formulas. That's this stuff right here. So to get a copy of the formulas, because you notice you see the numbers here, but if you look in the formula bar, you can see the formula and just the number of the correct answer down here. To print or see the number of the formula instead of the answer, you go to the Office button up here, come down to Excel Options, then you want to go to the Advanced section, scroll down until you get to the section that says Display Options for this worksheet, and we want to put a check in the one that says Show Formulas in Cell instead of their calculated results. Put a check in that box, say OK, and now you can see how you got the answers. And you're going to have to play with this a little bit in order to print it out. Because if you look at print preview, notice how it's on 2 different pages. It's on 2 different pages because by default it doubled the column width. So you're just going to have to take your mouse and resize those columns back. And I'm using double click here to best fit to make them smaller. Then you can see this dotted line here saying that's all in the one page. I can resize that to get that on one page. When you go to print preview, go back to the previous page. Here you can see how when you print it out, you'll see the formulas in there. Okay? So you'll print that out. I'll need to see with the answers, with the formulas, and the example of your chart. Print those out, staple them together, make sure your name and your heading is up at the top, and then that will complete this activity.